Final Fantasy VII is one of those rare video games that never really stopped being relevant. When it launched in 1997, it didn't just elevate Square's flagship RPG series, it helped push the entire medium forward. Now, nearly 30 years later, Square has confirmed that the original Final Fantasy VII has officially surpassed 15.5 million copies sold worldwide, further solidifying its place as one of the most commercially successful and influential role playing games of all time. What makes this milestone especially notable is how steadily the game continues to sell. In mid 2025, Square reported that Final Fantasy VII had crossed 15.1 million units sold. In less than a year, that number has grown by roughly 400,000 additional sales. For a title that first released on the original PlayStation, that kind of sustained demand is almost unheard of. It's not being driven by a new remaster, a flashy relaunch, or a marketing blitz. Instead, it's the result of decades of word of mouth, cultural relevance, and evergreen reputation that continues to pull in both new players and returning fans. A massive portion of those sales came from the game's original run on PlayStation hardware. Around 10 million copies were sold on the original PlayStation alone, back when RPGs were still considered niche in many parts of the world. Final Fantasy VII helped change that perception. It wasn't just successful by genre standards, it was successful by mainstream standards, standing alongside the biggest games of its era and proving that story driven RPGs could be system sellers. Another key reason Final Fantasy VII's sales continue to climb is its near constant availability across platforms. After its PlayStation debut, the game eventually made its way to PC and later expanded to mobile devices with releases on both iOS and Android. Console re releases followed on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch, making the game accessible to players regardless of their preferred ecosystem. It has even been included as a legacy bonus title on the Switch too, ensuring that the original 1997 release remains part of the modern gaming conversation. This approach has allowed Final Fantasy VII to exist as a living product rather than a museum piece, constantly rediscovered by new audiences, while longtime fans often rebuy it out of convenience or nostalgia. Looking at the broader picture, these sales contribute to an even bigger milestone for the franchise as a whole. As of early 2026, the Final Fantasy series has surpassed 207 million units sold worldwide. That's a staggering number built across decades, multiple generations of hardware, and wildly different creative directions. Within that lineup, Final Fantasy VII continues to stand above the rest. Final Fantasy XV has crossed 10.3 million units sold. Final Fantasy XVI sits at roughly 3.8 million, and the Final Fantasy VII Remake project has moved more than 7 million copies. All of these are strong performers, yet none of them have eclipsed the original 1997 release as a standalone title. Part of the reason Final Fantasy VII continues to resonate is its story and presentation. The game follows Cloud Strife and the eco-terrorist group Avalanche as they battle the Shinra Electric Power Company, a corporation draining the planet's life force for profit. What begins as a rebellion against corporate exploitation gradually expands into a much larger conflict involving identity, memory, environmentalism, and fate, all anchored by the presence of Sephiroth, one of the most iconic villains in video game history. These themes help give the game a sense of weight and maturity that stood out at the time and still holds up today. Technologically, Final Fantasy VII represented a turning point for the industry. Its use of pre rendered backgrounds combined with 3D character models allowed for cinematic camera angles and dramatic storytelling that console RPGs had never attempted at this scale. Full motion video cutscenes helped sell emotional moments in a way that felt revolutionary in the late 1990s. For many players, this was the first game that felt truly epic, not just in length, but in scope and ambition. It set expectations that would shape the genre for years to come. What's remarkable is that even with remakes, sequels, spin offs, and reinterpretations, the original Final Fantasy VII still stands as the benchmark. It's the version that introduced Midgar, Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, and Sephiroth to the world, and it's the version that continues to sell without needing to be reinvented. The fact that it's still adding hundreds of thousands of sales per year shows that its legacy isn't purely nostalgic. New players are still discovering it, still finishing it, and still talking about it almost 3 decades after its debut. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Final Fantasy VII ongoing sales success, make sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, check out my Patreon, where the latest exclusive looks at the rise and fall of the Sega Dreamcast and what went wrong for one of the most beloved consoles in gaming history. Until next time, game on.